Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we are live, 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 live. You may be seeing my face, you may not be seeing my face, but we're live. It's only going to be a brief little discussion between uh, about Bruce Wayne and Aquaman's visit. Some interesting things there. Now, first of all, a lot of people have been saying that Joss Whedon he had something to do with the footage of Bruce Wayne versus Aquaman. Well, from what I saw, just letting you guys know, the only thing I saw Joss Whedon do was the close up of Aquaman. There were two close-up shots of Aquaman, and I believe those two close-up shots were Joss Whedon's input there. Everything else, as I said before, is Zack Snyder. Everything. Everything. And it can be corroborated by just going and checking out the trailers, as well as just looking at the background. If you look at the background, you can tell that they're in Iceland or somewhere up on that side, and it would be ridiculously expensive to remake that scenery. Okay, so that's natural background, natural scenery. And so I do believe that those takes that you see were Zack Snyder. Everything there was Zack Snyder that did everything there, but probably Whedon selected which of the shootings to actually incorporate into the actual movie. So I think everything was there already shot. Now that's in terms of the director who directed those scenes. Now let's talk a little bit about the substance of the scenes. So Bruce Wayne, you see him coming down from the mountainside. He's traveling by horse a long distance, and he comes down from the mountainside to this village, which is at the bottom of the mountain, because there's no other way to access this village by land but to come from above, below. So we have the theme of above and below again being seen in this Zack Snyder film continuously. And in this case, it tells you about the mission that uh, Bruce Wayne is on. It's a hopeful mission. And so Bruce Wayne is coming from above this village to get support for this mission from Aquaman. And we see the concept of above and below again, where we look at the picture, where we see the mother boxes, because Aquaman, he belongs on land, and he also belongs in the ocean, and he stays on the margin between the land and the ocean. And so Aquaman generally will dive into the sea, into the ocean, and apparently from their discussion, Aquaman, the people of Atlantis keep on telling him, at least the leaders of Atlantis or whoever, what he should do. He's not cool with that. Now we see that Aquaman descends to go into the ocean. He descends from the land and goes into the ocean. And it's interesting because the conversation that Bruce Wayne has with Aquaman is as Aquaman is walking towards the ocean. So it's not really Bruce Wayne leading Aquaman or anything like that. Bruce Wayne is trying to talk with Aquaman. Sorry, I'm kind of sleepy. He's trying to talk. He's trying to keep up with Aquaman. And Aquaman's not having it. He's going towards the ocean. He's going towards the sea. And what we see Aquaman do is, well, Bruce is not able to convince Aquaman because, you know, Bruce has never really lived what he's saying to Aquaman. But anyway, we see Bruce trying to convince Aquaman as Aquaman is saying why he doesn't like Bruce meddling in his affairs and so on. And on the edge of the ocean, between the ocean and the land, Bruce stands on the land and he has a conversation with Aquaman. And Bruce is again above Aquaman. Aquaman is in the water. And Bruce has this conversation with Aquaman where he's asking him what's in the three boxes. And Aquaman says ancient history. In other words, it's long since gone, which is very interesting. And Bruce Wayne, who seems to be on the upper ground, he's not the powerful one here. He's the one coming to ask Aquaman, but higher moral ground, shall we say. He's saying, so we got it coming. All the pollution that we've done in the oceans and the environment. And Aquaman says, I don't have a problem with the oceans rise. He said, what if they boil? To which Aquaman answers, "You're out of your mind, Bruce Wayne, dressed like a bat." And he goes his way. And Bruce Wayne he says to him, "But I'm not wrong." The same thing Aquaman had said to him. And he says, "The strongest man. A strong man is strong alone." Now, what's interesting about this above and below that Zack Snyder continuously does in his movies is he typifies either the power or the moral high ground that one person is coming with. Doesn't necessarily mean they're morally right, but he's saying they come with a moral high ground. It's like they're trying to convict you by conscience, by imputing moral, that they are morally superior to you, or that their ethics they're coming from ethical grounds. And I truly appreciate that. Now, there are some other details I noticed in the people living in that village. Remember, these people, they know the history of these mother boxes in Aquaman. We see the painting on the wall, so they are aware of this stuff. But they don't speak English, right? And what's interesting, Bruce Wayne knows what Aquaman looks like. So he didn't just come there, and even though the gentleman sitting down looked like the senior guy there, and then Aquaman started speaking on his behalf as a translator, it's not that Bruce Wayne didn't know who Aquaman was. It was that Bruce Wayne was attracted to the fact that Aquaman knew about the 3 boxes, which, excuse me, I'm yawning again because I want to go to sleep. The 3 boxes, which Bruce Wayne knew were important because he'd been following and tracking these 3 boxes, but he didn't know what they were about. He didn't know what they were for. So Bruce Wayne is asking Aquaman, he's saying, "When we're ready and we need you, will you be there?" And he says, "Don't count on it. Don't count on it, Batman." And he calls him Batman, which is very interesting. Anyways, I wanted to share that with you guys. There are some other subtle things in there, because the last time we saw Aquaman, the first time we actually saw him, first and last time, he was in the ocean, and we saw footage of him attacking a underground submarine with a camera, and then speeding off at super speed. So this is what Bruce Wayne first saw the Aquaman. And what is truly interesting about that is that the next time we see the Aquaman is when Bruce was looking at the files that Amanda Waller gave him, in which we saw the Flash on Aquaman in there. So Bruce gathered more information on Arthur Curry that way. This was the first time Bruce was meeting Arthur Curry in person, in this remote place at the edge of the world. And what is interesting about the whole thing is that they have a conversation, and Aquaman returns to the ocean. Let me say that again. They had a conversation, and Aquaman returned to the ocean. Remember, Bruce Wayne, he's got files on this guy. He's seen him in the ocean environment, Aquaman that is. And when he's talking, he's alluding to the fact that Aquaman doesn't come by boat, right? And Aquaman now knows that Bruce knows who he is. So he very casually disrobes in front of Bruce and all the people who already know that what he does. And then he goes into the sea and disappears. And it's very interesting when someone's, shall we say, their the mask that they have is pulled off. How they very casually now proceed to do whatever they want to do. And so it's interesting seeing Aquaman go into the sea and zoom off and pretty much leave Bruce Wayne just on the water's edge. There's a saying that says, I don't know if you guys know about in the river and on the bank, on the water's edge. Uh, it's a saying, which means I'm almost there, but yet I'm not. So basically, Bruce Wayne is left hanging on this water's edge, sort of saying there. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. Now, let's see here. I know there's not many of you right now at this hour up. It's a work week. So I just wanted to share that with you guys. Now, I didn't expect, oh my gosh, Vegaton. Here he is. This is Zach's film. Whedon just filmed and wrote some additional parts. Yes, I know. That's correct, Vegathorn. But basically, I mean, I guess we all know this already. I think most people are coming to understand that. Take, for instance, the whole fight scene between Superman and the rest of the Justice League, and then Superman with Batman. The only parts of that whole entire thing that Joss Whedon actually did were the dialogue parts, if I'm not mistaken. When he says, "I know you," and then when he lifts him up in the air, and he tells Batman, that is, he says, I can't remember the exact words, but he's saying, "Why did you bring me back?" Something like that. And Batman says, "The world needs you." And then he says, "You won't let me live." No, and then he says, "The world doesn't need you." And he says, "You won't let me live, you won't let me die." And he says, "Tell me, do you believe?" So I think that's Joss Whedon right there. And then there's nothing else after that. The rest is the original script that Zack Snyder has, the original footage that Zack Snyder has. See? And the reason Whedon had to come in and reshoot that is because, the only reason really, is because there was other additional things in between. There's a lot more action. There was a lot more scenery going on, and Whedon had to cut it down to a certain length, but still keep the substance of it. So he had to get Henry Cavill to come back in and pretty much say effectively what he was saying, but just use less wording and just have less things going on to just pretty much sew the thing back together. Because what Henry Cavill originally said, he couldn't really fit it together. So he had to have Henry come back and do that part. That's all. But it's pretty much all of the other stuff is principal footage. Even Batman on the ground saying that definitely is something definitely is bleeding. It's not necessarily just Whedon's input. It could be, but it's not necessarily his input. Whedon came in to basically sew the dialogue back together pretty nicely, and Whedon was working on dialogue with Zach earlier on. So some of the jokes that Zach has is really Whedon jokes anyway. Some of the serious moments are actually Zach moments that Whedon redid, but basically in the vein of what Zach was doing with Chris Terrio. So, you know, Whedon got a script credit, I think, as pretty much just to help it, just to acknowledge him for the input that he did and the contributions that he made. And of course, he had a number of raw shoots of the actors doing various things, and then he would compile them in and decide what, you know, they would keep in the final cut. That's just like how Zach has multiple cuts of a scene, multiple alternative cuts of a scene. This is why what people didn't understand is you can see one scene in the ad campaign coming towards the movie, and if you really look at the ad campaign going towards the movie, you got a lot of scenes which are not exactly executed exactly like what you saw in the ad, but they are from principal photography. They are from the actual Zach cuts. It's just they decided to use an alternate cut, which is good because when you use these alternate cuts, the trailers didn't spoil the film. So I thought that was all brilliant. Actually, they even when Whedon and they put out the Heroes trailer, that was essentially the movie Whedon wanted to do, but they still had all of these alternate cuts in there and a lot of stuff that was originally there. And the point behind that was that, you know, Whedon, they already had the movie plan, but, you know, they decided to advertise different things. And the advertisements that they use are actually very informative to kind of help you understand the characters in the movie. So I thought it was well done. You know, there was another guy who was thinking that the scene between uh, Bruce Wayne and the Flash. They were saying that that scene was Whedon had to do with the part where the Flash was saying, "What's the concept of brunch?" You know, no, that was not Whedon either. That was Zack Snyder all the way through. That entire scene was Zack Snyder. That entire scene where Barry Allen meets Bruce Wayne, all the way up till they're in the car and they're driving off. That entire scene, Zack Snyder, was where Barry Allen meets. I don't know if Joss Whedon did an entire scene. I think one of the entire scenes he did was in the beginning of the movie, that little interview between the kids and Superman. I think that was an entire scene done by Joss Whedon. I don't think there's any other scenes in the movie where he's actually done entire scenes. He's basically sewing up the movie, and he did a lot of more serious moments in the movie. And as we all know, he did the he put the music to Zach's imagery in the beginning of the movie. So it was just beautiful. That song, everybody knows that song now. I mean, it's just a beautiful song and just a wonderful selection. I mean, it evoked so much emotion. I knew this was not going to be a comical movie, and I was very happy about that. As I said, I told you guys before, I'm surprised you're up, Vegaton, but that's nice that you really enthusiastic about this movie. But I would say to you that I thought Joss Whedon did such a good job, and it seems apparently that most of the stuff, even the ending, you know, the purple stuff, it didn't look purple. It didn't look stand out-ish purple, and so it felt creepy actually, and I was very happy about that. It wasn't a finished product. I would say it wasn't a finished product when I saw it first time. I think I've seen it now 7 times, and it really, in 2D especially, I haven't seen it in IMAX. And I heard IMAX does a lot more detail in it. But in 2D, it looks very good now. I mean, I can show you even a non-good resolution copy of it that I found, that I pirated off of some site online. And it, you know, the CGI is pretty good. It's pretty good. I mean, for that rush to get that CGI rendered properly. And it seems as though they got it to render even better in the cinemas now. So I'm very happy about that. When Aquaman dived in the water, it must have been cold. I was fearful for his health. Well, you could see that there were 2 shots. That's why I said Joss Whedon did the close-up shot of Aquaman. You could tell. He didn't get enough time to really integrate it into the line as it should have been. I kind of wish we had more Atlantis scenes. There were more Atlantis scenes. That I can tell you for a fact. Why? Because we know that what's his name? Who was supposed to be Volko? I forgot his name. He was definitely cast to be in the movie, and he actually did interviews with it. But he was pulled. It wasn't that important because you'll have it in the Aquaman movie, so they cut him for time, and he wasn't really relevant to the movie. It didn't really help the plot or story drive on any further, so it's okay. And then Whedon probably tied it up by allowing Aquaman to speak about his past a bit more in the scene with the lasso of truth, so it doesn't really matter. I kind of wish we had more Atlantis scenes. Yes, there were more Atlantis scenes. Not much more, but a smidgen more. Vegathorn, we keeping you up, man? Sorry. No, it's okay. It's okay. It's late in the night. I really should be going to my bed, but I decided to talk, so it's all good. Do you think Terrio balances that serious and funny vibe well? Absolutely. Chris Terrio is wonderful. And then with Joss Whedon on board, I thought that, you know what I like about the DCEU? Situational humor. The characters do not find what they're doing funny. We find it funny because it's just so surprising to us. You know, and then the clash of personalities is kind of funny. But to say these characters are of themselves trying to be humorous, they're not. And that's what I love about the DCEU. Even Wonder Woman. Nobody was trying to be funny. Well, Etta Candy was a little bit snide. But other than that, nobody else was really trying to be funny. And to me, the funniest moment in Wonder Woman, I will never forget. It really shouldn't be something I'm laughing at, but it just came so funny. When Wonder Woman finally, regretfully, hands over her shield and sword to Etta Candy, and it just weighs her down. And she's such a little lady, and she's kind of biggish. It weighs her down. She's like, "Oh, And while she's struggling to hold the sword and shield, it's so hilarious to me. Chris Pine's character, Steve Trevor, and one of them, they're gone. They're like, "Thank you very much," and it pats her on the shoulder and just gone and jettisons and leaves her there struggling with the struggling with the sword and shield. To me, that was hilarious, and it's situational humor. And situational humor is always funny because it's sad because we're laughing at the character's peril, actually. So situational humor was when Batman was flung like a toy. Superman just flung him like a toy from about 3-4 stories up. William Dafoe, that's the name. Vulko, that 3-4 stories up, and Batman is on a heap on the ground. Superman's flown off. It was a very dramatic moment when he met Lois Lane. You see his nose turning red, and he's kind of finding himself again. And they fly off. She's like, "Just go," and he flies off. And then we come to Batman, who's lying like a heap on the ground. And it's shocking to a lot of people. And I think that's why they're laughing, because generally Batman is not a guy who is seen so vulnerable, so damaged, so hurt, lying in a heap on the ground. So people are not used to that. So they're kind of shocked. And of course, Batman, he's a hard ass. He's tough. So as he gets up from the ground, well, he's not getting up like standing up, but he's rolling to his side. And he says, "Something's definitely bleeding." Everybody's laughing at that because Superman said, "Do you bleed?" And everybody realizes Superman is just so much stronger than Batman. Like Superman picked Batman up by his face. My God. Anyway, so he's so much stronger. He's so much stronger than Batman. It makes you kind of laugh. But it's really at Batman's peril. You're laughing at a dude who you just don't know if he has a whole bunch of broken bones. You just don't know what's went on with the dude. He just got body slammed into a car, okay? He got slapped stupid into a car, okay? Man, he's tough. He got punched by Wonder Woman. She didn't punch him, sorry. She pushed him and shoved him completely into the staircase thingy, okay? He's tough. I'll give him that. Batman is a tough dude. He was taking blows that entire movie. He's a tough guy. I'll give him that. But it's not something that's funny. And we realize that when he lifts his suit, and he's bloody. His skin is bloody. He's got all these sacks of blood inside of him. And you just wonder what's really under that cowl. What's really under his skin? Is he like Darth Vader? Is he just all burnt up and battered up and bruised up? Is that what Bruce Wayne really is under all his clothing? We never think about that. And it made us reflect on his humanity. And I think it's just beautiful to see the humanity in Batman, the Bruce Wayne in Batman. He's not a facade anymore. You're seeing him suffering, and he's becoming more human. So when he says that something's definitely bleeding, that's his humanity coming out. Batman's not like that. He's a boiling pot of rage usually. He sucks it up and he just keeps going, or he'll limp away, or he'll roll away. This time he acknowledges that he was damaged. He acknowledges that he's hurt. He even made himself vulnerable. He called Superman Clark, and then Clark charged at him and slapped him away. We're not used to seeing that. So I thought that was just special. I believe I saw Justice League in Dolby. Would highly recommend it to you. I want to see it in IMAX. I just saw a clip of Justice League in 4K, and it's ridiculous. I mean, the detail on that thing is, oh wow. William Dafoe was to be Vulko, aka the former Green Goblin. Yes, William Dafoe. I also thought I loved how Ciarán Hinds acted out Steppenwolf. I loved it. I cannot forget this line where Steppenwolf catches the missile. He looks at the thing. He looks at the missile, and then he says, "Primitive beings." And then he turns it and lets it go. I mean, these are just, they're nuances, and they're just clever things that His observation just shows you how he just examines this missile that's still firing, mind you. The thing is still firing. Okay, he holds it as it's firing, and he's like, "Your technology is so primitive, primitive beings." And then he just takes it and lets it go. To me, these are just to me this that's beautiful things. You know what I'm saying? It's funny. No, I haven't seen Coco. I don't think I Coco is not my kind of movie. See, that's for families and children and stuff. I don't watch Coco. Like I guess you guys have to understand something, Michael Willis. I don't go to see movies because they're popular. I go to see movies because I'm interested in seeing them. And Coco doesn't give me any interest. The one that interests me is that big bull, the big bull. I forgot what the name of the movie is. That big bull that's powerful. He looks powerful. It looks like, but he's really a gentle giant. That interests me, if you ask me, because something about it's different. Coco is about dead spirits and going to see dead spirits. That nothing intrigues me there. See, some people are intrigued by death. I am not really. Vegathorn, Michael Willis. I have not, but Star Wars is on my list next, obviously. I think all of us are intrigued by Star Wars. I think the story is very intriguing. Where they're going to go with this light and dark, the end of the Jedi, all of that's very intriguing. So, of course, Star Wars is going to intrigue me. Dave Ethan, Bat fans have their fun in BVS last year. Now, us Superman fans got ours in Justice League. Man, Superman stole the show. So much about Superman I would love to talk about, but not now. Um, but yeah, Dave Ethan, yeah, I mean, Superman did definitely stole the show, man. Michael Williams, Star Wars all day. You know, it's you gotta see Star Wars, man. You gotta see Star Wars. It's a franchise that has always entranced us. We love the fact that it's about the stars and war. You can't go wrong. You just can't. But at the same time, I am addicted to Justice League. You know, I'm addicted to it. I want it on Blu-ray, DVD. I want to see it. I don't know. I just love it. I love it. Vegathorn, Michael Willis. I'm nervous and excited for that movie. Next Thursday, I get some answers. Vegathorn, the big bull movie you're talking about is Ferdinand. That's the movie. Yeah, that movie Ferdinand. Something about it I like about it. You know, there's something about that movie I like. I just want to see what it is about. I'm very curious. You know, Michael Willis, Superman was awesome. Yes, man. Oh, yeah. Aquaman was cool. I mean, we didn't get much of Aquaman, but we got a little. You know what I like also about the DCEU? Aquaman was a character who you didn't get much of him. It was a taste of him, but you liked what you got and you want to see more. And I think that's the cool thing about the DCEU, that you always want to see more, you know. And I think a lot of people were saying when we saw Justice League, it makes you want to see the other DCEU movies. But of course, we have to get this thing, the box office it needs to get to. And I think that's one of the things that I really am hoping, as I said before, will happen. With respect to, as I was saying, well, which director was doing what, I think you can actually look at the movie if you pay close attention. Sometimes you can get it, but it's really hard. I mean, Joss Whedon came out there and he said that Everybody Knows was what he actually put into the movie. I'm not saying that the visuals were his. Obviously, they weren't. And when you have 100% of a movie done already, it's very hard for an incoming director to do much of anything. Okay, so I love that he put that song to that movie. It's really awesome. You just pre-ordered Justice League on 4K DVD. How can you manage to do that? How do you manage to pre-order Justice League, man? That's cool, though. That's cool. That's very cool. Oh, you pre-ordered it. That's right. You pre-ordered Justice League. Let me throw this out to you guys because we're just talking. Who do you think was the guy with the scope? I've asked this question before, but I'm still going to ask. Who do you think was the guy with the scope that was eyeing out the terrorist guy, the head terrorist guy? Who do you think was it? Well, the other thing I want to ask you guys, or well, let's just talk about Justice League. Let's just keep talking about it. Um, the other thing that I wanted to talk to you guys about is 10:15. I'm gonna finish up in 5 minutes. Okay, guys, that's okay with you? 5 minutes more I have. Um, the other thing that's interesting with Justice League that I liked, I really appreciated, was that the build up in the story to me was done right. What I mean by the build up of the story uh, being done correctly, you really weren't unclear as to what the threat was. You really weren't unclear as to who who was involved in dealing with the threat, and you understood the motivations of each person. You understood the motivations of Aquaman. You knew why, because Steppenwolf had actually come down to where he was and got a mother box. You knew Cyborg's motivation was to protect his father. You knew that uh, the Flash, his motivation was because he jumped on board with Batman. So the Flash didn't have a clue as to what he was getting himself into, but because Batman was there, he wanted to be a part of something greater and just to have company. So the Flash actually came for company, and he was always trying to be friendly with everybody. He was desperately friendly, actually. Um, Wonder Woman, we knew why, because again, the threat, the Amazon is the mother box. So I thought the motivations for the characters were very simple, very clear cut. Zack Snyder did say this was going to be a simpler film, as Jeremy Irons did say. I want to ask you guys a question that has to do with this movie, like I said before. What do you think Zack Snyder would feel if, or how do you think he feels realizing that people may be rejecting his basic story and his basic movie because Joss Whedon's name is attached to it? I mean, the bulk of this movie, the 90%, almost 95% of this movie is Zack Snyder's stuff. I think Joss Whedon touched up like the end when Superman was actually fighting Steppenwolf. I don't know if he completely reshot certain scenes, but definitely the dialogue part was where he dabbled into it. And we know that there was this big fight scene at the end of the movie, so Superman had to be involved. So I do believe that the way how the movie ended is exactly how Zack was going to do it, except that Joss Whedon had to cut out extra scenes, extra fight scenes. And so again, the dialogue was just to sew things together. So Whedon was but adding in certain dialogue there. What I want to know is, how do you think Zack feels about people saying that this movie was a hacking of his work, seeing that basically most of what we see is his work? How do you think Zack would feel about that? Do you think he feels anyhow about it? Michael Willis says, I really didn't like Aquaman too much. I didn't get enough. Hopefully his movie will turn me around. Okay. Well, maybe I don't know what to say about that. I don't know what to say about that. I can't. I don't know what to say about that. Bigathon. Got to get more underwater scenes. I love the underwater scenes. I love the underwater action. I loved everything there. Aquaman actually grabbing Steppenwolf by his horns and kicking him, kneeing him out the way. But Steppenwolf is very strong, and of course, once he gets the mother box, he's out of there. You know what I mean? Smashing him through, just ramming him through that pillar. Crazy, man. Just insane. And the other thing that I thought was interesting, which it begs this question, guys. Let me see if you guys know, because I don't know. The Atlanteans were driven underwater, right? But they were really people who used to live on land. So here's my question to you guys. If they were living on land and they were driven down into the water, then exactly what on earth, how did they learn to live underwater? I'm just saying. What happened? Did a god come down and give them gills or something? I'm just thinking, did Poseidon come down and give them gills or something? Because how did they learn to breathe underwater? I just thought about that. Just a thought. I think people understand this is his movie, but he might be dis is that disappointed, you mean, with the box office perception? Yeah, boy, I mean, it was a double whammy when uh, the critics smote him, and then people who claimed to be his followers smote it a second time. That was just a double whammy, man. That was terrible. But hopefully, it makes what we are looking for, profit, and we wanted to get to $1 billion. So I haven't changed my mind. I wanted to get to $1 billion. We'll see what happens. It's fading out of the news a little bit, but I've been looking at certain areas in social media, and people are actually liking this film more than anything else. I mean, they're loving it. Some people are loving the film, and they're like, "Man, I need to go back and see this again." And I'm looking at different places. I've even been looking at people and their comments, and I've just been like, "Oh, there you go." Now the major media outlets, some of them are still favorable to it, not like the individual people, but it's very interesting that people even are starting to see that it's baloney that some of these rumors, like the Kevin Suchiara rumor that Kevin was just trying to eke out money, and that's stupid. And if you think about it, it has to be a rumor. Why? Warner Bros. Wouldn't pump so much money into Justice League with Joss Whedon, with reshoots and all of that. They wouldn't pump in money over $300 million if they really wanted to make money and shortchange the movie. Well, they wouldn't pump in more money in it. They try to gather money for themselves. You know what I'm saying? So it doesn't logically make sense, and it sounds like a rumor. Somebody has an axe to grind with Sujihara and they're trying to get back at them. Zach can finally have just live without all the bashing. Zach has more important things to worry about, but I mostly think he's in a state of relief. He can move on. I don't think so. I think he's, like you said, he has other issues in life he's dealing with right now. I think that's mostly it. He did put out a movie, Snow, Steam, and Iron. I don't know if you saw it, a short movie. It's pretty cool. No conversation in it. It's just straight. If you guys want me to post the link for you, I can do it right now. Let me see if I can post the link up for you guys to check it out. It's on Vero, but I got an area that's outside of Vero. You can check it out right here. I'm gonna post it up. Snow, Steam, and Iron. It's really cool. Oops, that's a deer. That's a deer in the background there. Yeah, I checked it out. I couldn't go on Vero because I don't have a phone that could do that, but definitely something worth seeing. I don't know if you guys understood what was going on there, but we can always discuss that another time. But I do want all of you to really check out Sucker Punch. Sucker Punch is a movie, man. You need to check that thing out. That's a Zack Snyder film. All his films are about empowerment or beating the odds. And that's why I like this film, because this film's all about beating the odds too. I know you can't see my face, guys. Sorry about that. Let me see that. I don't know if you're seeing it now. Beating the odds. And that's why I'm hoping, in spite of everything, that this movie gets to $1 billion. That's all I wanted to do. I don't see it being impossible, but it is kind of difficult right at this point in time. It depends on if people go back and see it multiple times. All you have to really do is go see it, I think, my opinion. Let's see here what you guys are saying. Exactly. I wanted more of his aquaness, if that makes sense. I was mostly hyped for the water scenes, and we got one really cool. Just wanted more. I like also when he dove into the water, even though the close-up when he dove backwards I could tell that was Joss Whedon and Jason Momoa faking as if he's going to dive back into the water. It's kind of funny looking, but I love how he speeds off. His super speed, man. When after the icky thump stuff and he drank the beer and threw it off to see the waves took him, and then you saw him just kind of swimming super speed through the water. Oh, that was so sick. Zack Snyder, man. Zack Snyder. I loved his movement in water too. I love the fighting in water. I love what Mira did, where she just kind of like just smack, and then she just sent the water flying, and then Steppenwolf went flying down below in the water, and he slammed it with his axe, and all the action scenes were lit, man. It was lit. It was lit. It was lit. Man, I could fanboy out here. They could have always had a sea under, but went back after the poor attitude humans gave. Uh, I'm not too sure what you mean there. Trying to figure out what you mean, Vegathorn. Uh, Vegathorn, Michael Willis. That's what happens with reshoots and all. No, it's not only reshoots though. It's you see, you have to understand a couple things, right? It's about the time frame. Zack Snyder and Joss Whedon. Well, Zack Snyder first. He had to make it in 2 hours and something. I don't know if they cut it down to 2 hours or if it was always going to be 2 hours. They wanted something 2 hours long. They didn't want something very, very long. The point behind it is they're saying if we're going to lose money on this thing, let's have it short and sweet. And if you think about it, just having the thought that it's short and sweet is cool. I mean, I absolutely enjoyed the time frame. 2 hours is just good enough because think about it. If you go out to the cinema in the afternoon, you go for 6:45, you want to leave, 9 something. You don't want to leave like 10, especially if you got problems with your stomach or something like that, which I have. So, you don't want to stay out too late. So I actually like that it was 2 hours long. And I thought it was just sufficient time. I did not feel like I missed anything. I think a lot of people, they felt that way because they'd seen all these trailers and the trailers had certain scenes in them that they didn't see in the movie and they were looking forward to that. In other words, the mentality of a music video started playing in their heads. They thought they'd seen the biggest hits, so they were waiting for those biggest hits to come. And they couldn't realize that this is a complete film. BVS, you were looking for the biggest hits, and then you saw them and saw them and saw them because it spoiled the whole damn movie. And so you weren't feeling as pumped. In this movie, you couldn't spoil it because they changed up the scenes a bit. And so you had to follow the story. And it literally ropes you into the story. And it moves fast enough that I know for critics, it's a critic nightmare because they can't reflect on nothing. They just gotta the movie moves so fast that they can't assess anything. And that's their problem. They should really be in the story. They should be trying to come, I'm looking at cinematography and screw that. The first viewing, you're supposed to see if it'll pull you in. The second viewing, you can get a little bit more analytical. And you may need a third viewing to see if everything that you're starting to notice, do I have the plot holes here? And what you should be doing at the end of the movie is asking yourself certain questions to see if they are really plot holes. And if you can't find plot holes, then shut the hell up. You know what I mean? And they're like, the movie is drab and come on. The movie's colorful, beautiful to watch. This is probably the most colorful, saturated, kind of colorful. It's not colorful. It's still got that tone, that Zack Snyder tone, but he's popped the colors. The colors pop a bit. And he's like, usually Zack Snyder pervades his movies over with a blue, sort of blue color palette at certain points in the movie, in the darkness, whatever. Now the blue color palette has other color palettes integrated into it. I thought they did a brilliant job with that color palette too. There are only certain parts where you could see Whedon kind of redid certain things that were kind of a little bit too clean. They weren't beady, and you could tell that Whedon did some kind of reshoot right there, But other than that, it was great. And the CGI sometimes, at least earlier on, wasn't that up to par. It's much better now. Michael Willis, I was hoping for a badass scene when Aquaman takes the fight with Steppenwolf back to the sea, and a group of Atlanteans riding on massive sea. No, that was never going to happen, man. Michael Willis, come on. Now you're being ridiculous, dude. You see, I don't know what's wrong with the fans. You have an Aquaman movie where they already put it out in Comic-Con that they're writing sea creatures and stuff. That was never, nowhere in the media they ever said that Aquaman, you're going to see him riding a sea creature or something like that in Justice League. It was supposed to be a taste of him and even the trailers. Come on, man, dude. Now you see people. This is a good point. This is a point I need to make. All right. So a lot of people, even I was listening to a guy on Facebook, he was talking about, he went into Justice League. All right. He went into Justice League. Let me see if I can find him on Facebook right now and exactly what he said. Okay. So I won't call his name, but he said this. He said, I went into Justice League wanting and expecting to love it. Why would you do something like that? I mean, I don't know how many of you understand that. I don't know how many of you understand anything. But how many of you realize when you go in to see a movie, it's just like going to read a book. You don't go in with any expectations. You don't wonder if it's good or if it's bad. You don't do that. You go in to see what story you're going to see. It's kind of like a present. Somebody gives you a wrap gift. You can't be saying, oh, I hope it's a toy car. That's stupid. Unless they promised you a toy car. But they give you a gift. You don't know what's inside. The fun of it is just opening it to see what it is. And that's the same thing with movies. You go in to see what a movie is. That's all you're going in to really see. What's the story? I don't know what the story is. Don't go in with expectations for anything. This is going to be the most epic, earth-shaking movie of all time. That's stupid. Now you're not gonna have that. Very rarely do expectations like that get met. Very rarely. That's just what it is. So you don't go into the theater expecting anything. That's the exciting part. You don't know what to expect. That's what makes it fun for me. I don't know about other people. In life, you don't have expectations for anything. You go in there with goals. You go into life, but the more you try to have big expectations for things which are not in your control, is the more you'll be disappointed. When you have big expectations for people, oh, this person did so well here and they did so well here, they're going to do great here. And then you go and they don't, because you expected something that they were not going to do. And now you're disappointed. So I always try to tell people like Michael Willis, etc., to have realistic expectations of things, just have none. Go in there to see, especially a movie, which is not under your control. Just go in there to see what it is about. And you will know in time if it's good or not. You'll know as the movie goes along. You'll know because there's certain things that you may like, which the movie will either present or not present. And there are things which annoy you, which the movie will either present or not present. And just because those things annoy you, don't necessarily mean that they're bad. Maybe on a second viewing, you see the brilliance of them, like Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor annoyed the crap out of me the first time I saw BVS. And until the explosion, I was pissed at this guy. I wanted to, who's this clown? Boom, explosion came. All of a sudden, my mindset changed. I hated him, but I was afraid of him, you know? And that's just the way how movies are. I'm an artist. I do a lot of all kinds of things in art. So for me, looking at people do creative things, I always give them the benefit of the doubt because I don't think in a conventional way. And so I don't expect them to think in a conventional way. And that's why I want to go on a ride. I don't want to go on a ride with something that I've seen from Hollywood, the same old shit over and over again. That's what I'm tired of. I'm tired of the same bullshit. When you say a comic book movie, dun, 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 and the protagonist, the hero, he does the same shit and he goes the same course way and it's not relatable to real life. I hate that. I hate it. And they don't take the comic book characters seriously. It's about hee hee ha ha. Man, I hate that. I hate it. You know, people can go into the cinema, turn off their brain and watch that stuff and laugh. I can't. I'm used to active watching, active listening. I actually perk up sometimes in the cinema and keep on watching everywhere around me on the screen. That's what I do. I don't know about other people. You see, I'm not just in the theater for empty entertainment. That's me. I don't know about other people. And I talk with people too while the movie's going on. Yeah, it's cool. Vega Thorn, Justice League has made 570.3 million worldwide so far. But not really worldwide. That's domestic figures added. There's nothing worldwide yet added. So you have to wait till the weekend and then you'll see the worldwide gross on top of the domestic gross. You see? I think it made $1 million Monday, they were saying, domestically. 1 million something, which is pretty low, but it kind of held a little bit. We'll see what happens. Michael says, I was fine with the runtime. 2 hours is fine. Yeah, I thought so. I'm sorry. I still love the movie. It's just in the trailer with all the Amazons charging. I just in battle had me hyped. Oh, they charged, man. They were in the movie too. Yeah. The Amazons, man, they are beasts. They are beasts. You see that Amazon jump on Steppenwolf's head? I mean, he was strong and powerful and he pushed her off, but I mean, all those Amazons was holding him back not to get the mother box, and then uh Hippolyta had to get out of there, and he was like, yes, run. I was like, damn. He's creepy, man. I don't know about it. I don't know what other people think. They must be seeing a CGI character. I don't know how they could be seeing a CGI. To me, he feels like an alien being, an ugly alien being, but yet he's kind of good looking enough that you could watch him, but he's kind of horror looking. He's got this pale, pasty. To me, he's a clash of Freddy Krueger and Jason and what's that character? Forgot it, from Halloween. I know you guys know the guy from Halloween, Michael, Jason, and Freddy Krueger. To me, he reminds me of all three of them put into one. He doesn't have the claws and stuff. You know, we saw him slash at the Amazons, but he didn't really chop them in half. I was looking forward to that happening, but I know it's rated PG-13, so they can't chop them in half. And a lot of blood, you know, rated R, it have the blood and, you know. But he was slaying Amazons, man. He was killing them with that axe, man. He was killing them with that axe. And that's what I envisioned. Hey, whatever, man. I understand. I just don't try to envision things when I go to see a movie. I give the movie a fair shake. I always try to give movies fair shake. Thor Ragnarok got a fair shake for me, but I knew my taste in movies. I'm not a guy that laughs a lot in the cinema. I'll smile. I'll break a smile. If you see me laugh at something, it's probably because I found humor in something that probably other people didn't see or whatever. You know, it's just funny. Like at the end when they're all standing on the edge, and I learned that Batman is really talking about Wonder Woman when he says, no, she's glad. He says it very blandly. And Wonder Woman kind of stares at him, serious, and then she kind of gets back smiling. It's so funny. To me, that's a very funny moment. Not a lot of people laugh about it because I don't think they pick it up. I didn't pick it up. And I saw the movie 5 times. I didn't pick it up at that point in time. It was in the 6th and 7th. And the other one that was hilarious to me is realizing that the Flash was imitating Zack Snyder. And when it dawned on me that the Flash was pretending to be, you know, he was basically channeling Zack Snyder in the movie, that cracked me up. I was laughing all the way. People thought I was crazy. I was hysterically laughing. I had a conniption. I had hysterically laughing in the cinema. It was funny as hell to me. So, you know, those kinds of things are funny to me. Yeah. Well, guys, it's 10:38 in the night where I live. I don't know what time it is by you, but it was fun talking to you guys as usual. Justice League. The movie probably breaks 600 million. Sorry. Either it'll break it this week or probably next week. We have to think about the world box office and how that works out. But at the end of the day, oh yes, I would love. You see, this movie was setting it up so that we could cross over with Marvel at some point in time. Even though it more than likely will never happen. I remember the JL cast saying they would like to cross over with Marvel. How do you feel about the? Yes, absolutely. I hope that happens. I really do. I really hope that the DCU survives, and we can have these standalone movies, and then nice big Justice League movie, and then crossover with Marvel. Absolutely. All right, they can even do it in between. I don't know. I think that this movie sets that tone for that to happen. You know, it really does. It sets it up for that to happen. They could come into the DC world, or the DC world can link up with the Marvel world. But I think that Marvel would be best served to come into the DC world because we have all those different characters. So it'd be nice when there's a crossover at some point. Absolutely. I would love to see that happen. But this movie has to do well at the box office. We still got a ways to go, guys. So don't forget, keep on sharing your love for the movie. Even if you think you're critical of certain flaws in the movie, things that you didn't see, and that's okay. I mean, I don't have a problem with that. I just had a problem with the narrative that Zack Snyder was shafted with this movie. That hurt hurt a lot. It hurt everybody. It hurt. That narrative did a lot of damage. It did a lot of damage. That's why it hurt at the box office like it did. I think if they didn't say that and they had their criticisms like Andre Oliver did, he had his criticisms, and he even said that he thought that Warner Brothers meddled with the movie in terms of the runtime. I don't think they meddled because I thought that they basically build their information off of screenings. So if people, the feedback they get from screenings and the feedback they've gotten from other movies says that people think that maybe the movie would be shorter. It's better if it's shorter. So that's why they came up with that runtime. And so they have a process in which they do things. But I would have hoped that they would have allowed Zach to do what he needed to do, but then Zach had to leave. And Joss Whedon was trying to be faithful to Zach and yet at the same time lighten up the movie because they were working on lightening it up anyway, some more. And they would be doing screenings, and that's how they would know it needs to be lightened up here. This needs to be done here, because that's what Warner Brothers does. They try to listen to everybody and do what best served. So they do care. I said that the executives don't care too much about movies. I mean, I don't think they are, all watching movies all the time and DC movies all the time. I don't think they're doing that. And by the way, Christopher Nolan also, he always observes things as well. He's there, He's not hands-on, but he's there. So, Nolan is also invested in this universe. So it's very important. This DC universe, it continues onward. It has to. And I'm totally invested in it. I want to see these movies succeed because I like what they've been giving. I really do. And I'm thirsty for this kind of content. I don't see it in Marvel, and I don't see it in Marvel Fox either. And Marvel Fox has come out with Deadpool and with Logan, right? I hated Deadpool. I haven't watched that movie entirely yet. I watched a piece of it and I wanted to puke and I just stopped. And with Logan, it's a nice, well laid out movie, but it really doesn't tell you much. He talks about xenophobia and that's it. It doesn't really have much in its content. Logan's Logan, as usual. He wants to loan it by himself. And pretty much he's kind of forced to help these little mutants who have escaped. And basically what's read in the comics is actually real. And that's, I think, beautiful, but there's not much to that story. So it's weird to hear people say, oh, this story is a strip down of Zack Snyder and stuff. And this story, Justice League, in my opinion, has a lot more going in it, and Wonder Woman, than Logan did. I mean, I like and appreciate Logan, and I appreciate the acting and the conventional way Hollywood does their movies. But quite frankly, I'm tired of it. I know the Hollywood method. I know the Hollywood way, and I'm tired of that bullshit. I really want innovative, creative, bold directors doing bold things. I thought David Ayer did a very bold thing with this movie. The movie had attitude. The movie itself was villainous. That's something you don't see. You don't see that every day. And so when the critics tore that movie up, I was laughing. I was like, these critics don't know shit about movies, because that's a very innovative movie. Suicide Squad is a very innovative movie, but we don't have room for innovation in Hollywood. We don't have room for innovation with these one-tracked, one-minded people. So when Patty Jenkins played it a little safe and was much more conventional, they kudoed that. Oh, yes, they gave raving reviews. Of course, she's a woman, too, so they don't want to go against the feminist movement. But at the end of the day, when you look at Suicide Squad, it's a one-of-a-kind kind of film. And I still like the theatrical cut better than the extended cut. I have the – what cut do I have? I think I have the extended cut. But I really want the theatrical cut. I think that was a ball. I really enjoyed it. And I don't hee-hee-ha-ha, so I don't need to have it being funny, I just need it to be something which I can enjoy. Anyway, guys, I see you guys are gone, and I have been talking too much. You guys have a great one. Let me wrap this up. You guys have a great night. It's always fun. See ya.